With details on CM Punk's recent appearance backstage on Raw and more, this is Wrestling Hub. My name is John, and you're watching the Wrestling Report. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Wrestling Hub Official and follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. Talking about her experience at the WWE Performance Center, Tiffany Stratton told Busted Open Radio, "The schedule is definitely very hard to get accustomed to. It was nothing like any other. Luckily, I had a little bit of wrestling experience and I was taught how to act, like the basic wrestling rules. So I knew what I was getting myself into. When you're newer, you have a little bit of a crazier schedule. You're training, I think like 4 times a week. It's only 4 times because Tuesdays we have TV. Sometimes they would make you come in on Tuesdays and have a training session. Training started at 8:30 a.m. and we'd go until 10:30 or 11:30. Let me tell you, bumping that early in the morning sucks. After that, we would go to gym class where we'd lift. After that, we would do a promo class or like an acting class, something along those terms, and it was every day. When you're newer, it's kind of a mandatory thing, like an unwritten rule that you have to go to open ring and you have to keep on working." On the Snake Pit podcast, Raven touched on a time he confronted Chris Benoit over the late star not liking him. As he said, he likes to not be friends with his opponents, especially if they're working a program like that, because then he doesn't feel guilty or anything for chopping the crap out of them and beating the crap out of them because his chops are brutal. I finally cornered him one night. I was like, "Why don't you like me?" He goes, "It's not that I don't like you." And he explained what I just said, and ever since that, we were totally cool. Touching on the recent Cody Rhodes promos, Kevin Nash noted this on his Click This podcast. "I know it's a babyface thing that he wants his pound of flesh. He wants his revenge. If he keeps making reference to the fact that he didn't win a WrestleMania, that's absolutely evident since you don't have a belt. You don't have to bring it up every week that you didn't win at WrestleMania. I get it. People are still with you. Don't lose them." On his Legion of Raw podcast, former WWE writer Vince Russo said this about Roman Reigns taking time off to be with his family. "This is how it works. I swear to you guys, honestly, man, if Roman Reigns, after all the work he has put in for the last X amount of year, if Roman Reigns went to Vince and Wrinklehead, Triple H, and said, 'You know what, guys? I need some time off, man. I am tired and want to spend some time with my family. I need some time off.' Honestly, any good employer would say, 'My God, the job you've done for us the last 3 years, yes.' But that's what any normal employer would say, not WWE. They would punish you for wanting time off to be with your family." Speaking about the prospect of retired UFC stars making their way to WWE, Kurt Angle said on his podcast, "I know Dana White is very hell-bent on not allowing his fighters to go into pro wrestling. So I think that's going to be one obstacle they're going to have to overcome. But I do believe that the fighters who are going to retire are going to move over to pro wrestling in WWE. But I don't see fighters crossing over to wrestling while they're in their prime. I do believe when they're done fighting, I do believe they're going to go to pro wrestling just like Ronda Rousey did, just like Brock Lesnar did." On that same podcast, Kurt Angle said this about a possible storyline for him to be a part of in WWE, saying, "I would love to be a heel with Chad Gable. He's so entertaining. The two of us together would be unstoppable. But I'm sorry to say, if I ever came back to wrestle, I don't know if I'd be a heel. It'd be really difficult for me because of the career I have and the age I am. When you get older, people start having sympathy for you and they want to cheer you on. They want you to win, and it's really hard to turn heel later on in your career. Like Undertaker. Look at him. He has so much respect. He's been in the company for 30 years and all his accomplishments. You know how hard it would be for Undertaker to be a heel right now? It's almost impossible. And I think I'm comparable to that." saying this about making a return to WWE for the Royal Rumble match. Santino Marella told the Ignorance is Strength podcast, "I would like, especially because a couple of years ago, I came back as Santina in 2020. I would like to actually come back as Santino. I think people would really appreciate that." With Triple H unveiling a new World Heavyweight title belt last night on Raw, this was said on Wrestling Observer Radio about the original plans. When they were going to do a second belt, it was going to be Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, and Drew McIntyre. Those were the three people considered, and it probably won't be Drew because he has not signed a new deal, so I doubt that they would put it on him, although he's under contract until the end of the year. Seth, obviously, if you watched the TV, you pretty much figure Seth's going to be the guy who wins it. Seth and Austin Theory teased it the most, and Cody didn't talk about it at all. As Goldberg has made it clear he is interested in a farewell tour and retirement match, Matt Cardona chimed in on Twitter writing, "I'd love to. Come on, Goldberg, let's go. Somebody book this. Cardona versus Goldberg." Staying on the topic of Goldberg, it seems he came face to face with a champion in AEW as TNT title holder Wardlow told What Culture. "I actually pointed at him and I said, 'Bet your ass I'm not next.' So yeah, you guys just missed it. Goldberg did walk through just a minute ago and we exchanged words. I do not know what's happening behind the scenes, but we both mutually agreed that if the opportunity comes, we would love to see who really is next." Contrasting the heel personas of MJF and Dominick Mysterio, Disco Inferno stated on Keeping It 100, "I think nobody would disagree that MJF is a better performer. However, you could argue who has more heat right now, it's Dominic. I am positive that MJF would love to be getting the type of heat that Dom's getting right now. I mean, if you're a heel, you want Dominick Mysterio heat." With it previously said that Naomi was deemed to be too expensive for New Japan and Stardom, Ringside News added that Sasha Banks and Naomi walked out of WWE together, but Naomi almost came back. We are told that things changed when Sasha then held out for more terms. This caused Naomi to hold out with Sasha. As CM Punk made amends with many he had prior issues with backstage at Raw last night, Dave Meltzer said this about the internal reaction to him on Wrestling Observer Radio. "The feeling in WWE was that he was there because he wanted back. Obviously, there were talks of him going back, whatever it was, late last year, but he couldn't go because he was still under contract. And my impression is this was with Paul Levesque in charge and not Vince, and my impression was they didn't have any interest in him at that time." It was added that apparently Punk flew from Florida to Chicago on a flight with a lot of the talent. Giving another outlook on this situation with CM Punk backstage in WWE, Steve Carrier reported that CM Punk pulled a surprise appearance before Raw this week, but we were told that with a sold-out in-advance crowd in Chicago, creative changes, a pay-per-view in 12 days, and sold-out live events, all at the same time, nobody cared about CM Punk being there. With Seth Rollins and CM Punk having somewhat of a public feud over the years, this was said by PW Insider when asked if the two had anything to do with each other backstage at Raw last night. Not that we've heard. When it comes to AEW President Tony Khan's perspective on CM Punk being at Raw last night despite being under contract to AEW, PW Insider said this when asked about Khan's feelings towards this. "That's a question for Khan, but in the past, everyone from Ricky Starks to QT Marshall to Andrade have been backstage at WWE events while under contract to AEW. Some have been backstage at WrestleMania and other events with Cody Rhodes. There have also been lots of instances of contracted WWE talents backstage at AEW AEW events. Unless one side forbids the other from doing so, I can't see anyone getting mad when someone does something others have done without repercussions. I personally wouldn't want any of my talents at other shows, but given there are couples who work for different companies, how can you really forbid someone's wife or husband from being there? That just creates ill will. For the Q&A on CM Punk's visit to Raw, PW Insider was asked about Punk being told to leave the building, as they said. Again, I don't know for sure, but given the history there, the last thing anyone in WWE expected was for Punk to show up at their doorstep and say, "Hey, how are you?" You bring up Sable and Lesnar, but the difference is they were brought back by WWE to work for them, and when Vince McMahon made that decision, he also decided to let the past be the past. Same as when he brought back Hulk Hogan or Ultimate Warrior or anyone else he at some point had issues with that led to conflict. This wasn't WWE bringing Punk back to work for them. This was Punk making a decision, apparently, to come by and say hello. Different situation. And when asked whether or not Vince McMahon would have met with CM Punk if he was there, it was said that no. I do not think the chairman of a company would have met with someone under contract to his prime competitor. Not in such a public setting, anyway. And this was your pro wrestling news update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all later.